Alright, what's up guys? This is Scott, also known as Clegrin. I am the lead designer and programmer on Nekro, and we've been really hard at work on a brand new alpha build that we're trying to very quickly move into beta so you guys can get your grubby mitts on it and start playing it. So we're gonna go ahead and show you some gameplay. Just please keep in mind everything's alpha, so obviously it's not done yet. Alright, let's get right into it. Alright, so here we have the Nekro screen. This is where you can upgrade your main character, the Nekro. There's three main upgrades: health, power, and blood. I'm going to get into each one of those a little bit later. For now, I'm going to switch over to the summon screen. This is where you can upgrade your individual minions and make them better, and make them stronger and more deadly. So this is the Scourge. This is the main attack unit that I start the game off with. He has three upgrades. For now, I'm going to go ahead and get the free upgrade. What that allows me to do is every time I cast him, it won't cost me any blood, which is very, very powerful, especially for this first level that I'm going to be showing off. So the next thing I'm going to do is unlock the Horror. This unit is like kind of a swarming, zergling-like bat creature who he's kind of not very good by himself, but if you make a bunch of them, they're really strong. So every time I upgrade something, it takes away from the sins you can see in the upper left-hand corner there. So I only have a limited amount. That forces me to choose kind of like what I want to do with those sins, how I want to spend them, and try and utilize them in the best way possible. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and spawn. My Nekro comes out of this awesome blood pool, because he's made out of pure evil, so why wouldn't he? So the first thing I need to do is acquire blood. And in Nekro, blood works a lot like mana from other games, but the main difference is it doesn't recharge with time. The only way to get more blood is to kill stuff. So this creates a very interesting dynamic in Nekro where you're constantly having to kill things and attack. Basically, you can't stand back and meditate like you can in so many other games. You have to always be engaging the enemy. So we provide a lot of different types of enemies. You can see the farmer I just killed. He gave me a little bit of blood after I killed him. I can also consume his corpse to get more blood from that. These pigs here are just giant bacony blood sacks, so they'll give me lots of blood as well. I can just punch the hell out of them and get a ton. Or I can use my number one ability, the Scourge, that you just saw. So there's a lot of different dynamics at play, especially when it comes to corpse and blood mechanics in Nekro. In the game, essentially, corpses are one of the main resources you have. You can only make units using corpses of your downed enemies. So I can always make the choice, do I want more blood or do I want more corpses? So that's what that feeding mechanic is. I can either eat the corpse to get more blood, or I can choose to try and save it so I can make these monsters. So now that I have a couple of these the horrors here, the little bat creatures, I can give them direct orders with my right click. So it kind of adds a little bit of an RTS element to the game without having all the micro that so many RTS games have. So I can give them direct orders to attack or move or defend me or whatever I want. But the nice thing is they're pretty smart. We put a lot of time into making sure that they kind of always knew what you were trying to do and didn't just run off into the enemy and pull a bunch of enemies you weren't intending them to pull. It's just one of my biggest pet peeves in games is bad AI, so I mean, I'm doing my very best to try and make these guys act in a way that is congruent with your current intentions. So what I need to do is make a bigger army before I can attack the main objective. If you look on the mini-map in the lower left-hand corner, those two gold indicators are where my objective are. So I'm trying to stay on the outside edge of the map as to not get their attention just yet. We have a system in the game that's a help system where the enemies will call for help, and the farmers, luckily, they're pretty stupid, so they don't call for any help, which means that I can attack them on the outskirts and the townies won't even notice. But later on in the game, towns will actually call other towns for help, so you can get pretty screwed if you attack the wrong guy. So what I'm going to do now is attack the townies in the middle because my army's pretty big and I should be able to take them out. They hit really hard, so I'm going to have to use all my units to try and take the attention off of me, which is the reason why I had to make an army to begin with. So this is the first level. My Necro's really weak here. He doesn't have a lot of sins to upgrade himself or all of his minions with, so I kind of have to play it really carefully in the beginning. When I move on to the next map here, I'll get more sins, and in the real game, these progressions that I make, the units I unlocked and the Necro upgrades I unlocked, will move over from map to map. But for now, this is just the demo, so we're just showing off each map as if it's a brand new game. Alright, so here we enter into level 2. In this level we have a few new items that weren't available to us last round. The first of which is a Necro power, the Vial. The one we had equipped last round just enabled us to do a basic melee attack. Your Necro starts off with that, but this new one will enable us to do a ranged attack. I'll get into more detail about what it does in a minute. It also changes the aesthetic of your Necro, so as you can see, everything about him looks completely different. So the other thing we have is a trinket, and the trinket changes gameplay. It's like a wild card. Every trinket is unique and does something that's completely different from every other trinket. So this one will give you more health, whereas some other ones can give you monsters, and just basically add a different dynamic to the game that you can add. But you have to make the strong choice, which one do you want to equip. The other new thing we have available is the Punch. This unit is a large, bile-filled demon that essentially can take lots of damage, but isn't as strong at putting out damage. He has the ability to slow down his enemies, and when he dies, he explodes and spills a slowing bile all over everyone around him. So I'm going to go ahead and take him along with the horror from the last round. So this is going to make an interesting interplay between the three units I now have available. I have to deal my damage out with my horrors and then take damage with my punches. So I have to try and use them both in conjunction with one another to utilize their skill sets. So I'll go ahead and spawn now, and the first thing you're going to notice is that my Necro looks completely different from the last round. This is because we equipped that new Necro power. So this time when I left click, he's going to throw vials instead of do a melee attack. Those vials are going to heal my own guys or hurt my enemies. So I have to make the choice, how do I want to be spending my left click time? Do I want to be trying to support my own units or damage the guys that stand against me? So I'm going to start off by trying to attack these small wolf pups. The wolves are much more aggressive than the farmers from the last round, but luckily these guys are still pretty weak. I'm still going to take on the mentality that I must make a large army before I attack my main objective, because that is basically the only way I'm going to be able to win this map. If I try and just take it all on at once, it'll be too much for me. So now that I have a couple units, I can move a little bit more to the west. And here, there's an alpha wolf. Now this alpha wolf controls the wolf pups, and he's going to send them all against me. So when there's an alpha wolf around, it will enable all the units to pick a singularized target, and it's a little bit harder to fight against. So we have that kind of AI throughout the whole game, where one unit controls other units, and we can basically throw different attack patterns at the player to try and utilize those mechanics. So the other new thing on this map is a few more icons in the lower right hand corner. These icons are the event icons, and what these mean is they're countdown timers until something happens in the map. This is kind of the random event system that we're trying to add to the game that keeps it fresh. So every time you're playing a round, you have to kind of keep in mind these game-changing events that are going to be taking place. We have the order reinforcement wave, which is the upper left of those three icons, and when that one happens, a large wave of the humans respawn in the town. The next one is the wolf, and when that one takes place, the wolves that I just killed will be respawning. That arrow there indicates that they're about to spawn, so I don't get caught off guard. And then the one to the far right of that is the rain icon, and when that event takes place, it will actually obscure all of my vision, so I become very disoriented. These things they have to be taken into account when I'm attacking. I have to consider where the event timers are at, so that when I start an attack, I'm not taken by surprise by a reinforcement event or a rain event. These events are very basic on these levels, like, you know, rain and reinforcements, but in the later levels we're going to have much more advanced ones, such as the blood moon. And what the blood moon does is it spawns a bunch of werewolves all over the map. And those werewolves, they attack anything that they see. So everyone on the map has to essentially drop what they're doing and start focusing on this new threat. But every now and again, there will be a very rare spawn, the alpha wolf. And when you kill the alpha werewolf, he drops a paw. And what you can do is equip that paw, and then every time there's a subsequent blood moon, instead of you fighting the wolves, the werewolves will come and rally to you, and you can control them. So this is just a way to keep the game very dynamic and changing all the time, keep you on your toes. You know, combined with the mechanics that we have for how you have to constantly be attacking to get blood, it makes it so you're always doing something, you're always reevaluating how you're playing, you're always trying to change your strategy, and you're always trying to attack threats in different ways. So now that I have a sizable army, I'm going to go ahead and take on the town. We have Mayor Total Biscuit here, which we're trying to take out. So my army should be able to take him down with enough guys. He should go down pretty easy. Alright, so here we enter level 3. In level 3, we have a couple new items at our disposal. We have the Erdem Totem and the Bag of Fleas. What these do is create extra monsters that are from the neutral faction that we wouldn't normally be able to create. So in the full game, I would have to purchase these items, and then I can equip only one of them. So I have to make the really tough choice. What do I want to take with me? Do I want to get more health, or do I want to get more unique summons that I wouldn't be able to get in any other way? So I'm going to take the Bag of Fleas with me. Now I'm going to switch over to the summons page, and I'll make room for 4 summons since we have a couple extras. I'm going to take the Punge from last round, and the new unit, the Meat Mouth. Now this guy is really cool. He can remove a single target from battle. So if there's a really particularly nasty enemy that's been taking me out, I can use my Meat Mouth on him, and the Meat Mouth will actually consume him and remove him from battle. So I'm also going to take the Shade. This is a new unit that creates a Chrono Rift. Everything inside this bubble that's your enemy will be slowed down, so they'll all move in slow-mo. And all of your guys inside the bubble will actually be sped up. So what it does is enables you to really kick everyone's ass in an area. So you have to be really careful about where you place it down and how to choose to use that unit. So we have a couple new utility units now that we can kind of augment our standard Punge with. So we're going to try and use them in some unique ways to create a strategy that we wouldn't have normally been utilizing without them. So in this map, we start you off with quite a few corpses. This enables you to farm less and just get right into the action more once you're in a higher level of the game. So the Punge now is fully upgraded. What that means is he's going to have some slowing capabilities. He's going to go ahead and vomit on those wolves, and as you can see, they're walking a lot slower than they normally do. So in addition to being my tank, he can now kind of keep units off of me by slowing them down, and that made that fight much easier. You saw with even just one unit, all those guys went down way quicker than they did in the last round. So I'm going to try and farm more wolves here to raise the rest of my army and get more blood so I can use all my units. So I also want to keep an eye on the wolf respawn event that's down the lower right, just to make sure I don't get jumped by a bunch of new wolves. So this is a perfect opportunity to use my new Meat Mouth. I'm going to go ahead and use him on that alpha wolf that's after me. So I basically just took him out of the round. I'm going to finish up this fight, and then when Meat Mouth is done chewing on him, we'll spit him out. And he's actually doing damage inside of his belly, so hopefully it'll just kill him. You might also notice that the ground is just getting stained with blood and gibs everywhere, and we're putting a lot of time into our tech to just show how important death and decay and blood is in this game, because it's such a focal point of everything in Nekro. Alright, so now that I cleaned up this wolf area, I'm going to head over to the transformer node, which is my objective. Now, one thing you also might notice is that my punches stay in front of me. Now, we try to put a lot of time into acknowledging that this unit plays a tank role, so he needs to be in front of your Necro to take damage. He's also a very wide character, so that any shots that come in from ranged enemies will be absorbed by him instead of going to you. So I'm going to take on this hunter, which is basically a sniper unit that throws these gas grenades, and if I walk inside this gas grenade, it slows me down. My movement speed gets really slow. So he's a brutal enemy, but luckily by himself he's pretty easy to take down. So I'll isolate him with the punches and then kill him. So if I look at my trinket is ready to be used. Its cooldown is used up, so I can throw the trinket out, and it's going to make a bag of fleas, and these little guys are going to hop around and try and protect me. They're just really weak units, but they do tons of damage and super high DPS. So I'm going to take this engagement. All these witchers and enemies in this townie are all grouped up, so it's a perfect time to use my shade to try and slow him down. I'll pop a meat mouth on one of the witchers to take him out of the fight, since he's a very high damage dealer, so the less of them the better. And I'll finish off these other two. It should time out so that right when this fight's done, the meat mouth will spit out the other one. So now I can clean this one up. So, as you can see, these battles are just absolutely crazy. They get pretty insane in the later levels, and this right here is still a mid-level fight. So in the later versions of Necro, this is definitely going to get even crazier when you have your hotbar filled up, and some of these units are just a lot more advanced. So now that I've taken out this objective, I'm going to head to the second one. One thing I want to keep an eye on is the events. The rain event is about to come into play, and that's going to obscure my vision and make fighting this fight much harder. If you look at the minimap in the lower left, I have a clear vision of my enemies, my own summons, as well as what I've already explored. So I can see all the wolves on the other side of the map as well. But if you notice now, the rain event just began, and all of that is now completely obscured, as well as in my main game view. The fog rolls in and I can't see very far in front of me at all. So I have to make sure that I take this engagement pretty carefully so that I don't lose all my guys. But losing all the guys in Necro really isn't that big of a deal. We're working really hard to make it feel like your minions are pawns in your unholy war machine, that they're all extremely expendable and you can just throw them away if it supports your strategy. If they all die, and of course it causes my Necro to die, it was pointless. But if I can sacrifice them to keep me alive, then that's what I absolutely should do. Just like now, basically my army is completely gone, but I'm still alive and kicking, so I can just remax out pretty easily. I lost a lot of my guys in that fight because I was choosing to engage the enemy instead of healing my guys. So I chose more of an attacking role instead of more of a supporting role. And that's okay. You're going to cater the game to a lot of different play styles. With Necro powers, we're going to make it so you can play kind of a advanced melee fighter, so you can run in and do really strong critical damage at the cost of using up corpses. We're going to make it so you can play more of a stand-back sniper type of unit, and of course, as I'm playing right now, you can play the duality support unit, where you can choose between damage and healing. So there's always something for you to do, and always a different way for you to play. So you're always mixing and matching your summons with your Necro power, with your upgrades, with your trinkets. So the game is all very push-pull. You know, do you want to try and do more damage? Do you want to try and stay alive longer? To get one thing is to give up another, and we're really trying to emphasize that dynamic in this game. So here's the last transformer. This is going to be one hell of a fight because there's a lot of enemies here. So I'm going to try my very best to take this engagement on and win. But it's looking pretty difficult. I just lost both my punches and I'm running low on blood. So I'm going to try and fall back here, get behind these rocks while this Witcher is running around trying to take me out. These snipers are just brutal if you leave them alone. So I'm going to try desperately to make this plunge and get back in the fight and try and stand behind him so he takes up all the hits. But unfortunately, there's quite a lot of guys here. So I got taken out by a sniper. Sometimes that happens, and you can't always win. We're trying to make a challenging game, so you can't just roll through it. So I'm gonna cut it short here. Thanks everyone for watching. Just please keep in mind this is an alpha build, so everything that you saw is subject to change or alteration, and none of it is final. So if you like what you saw, we're running a Steam Greenlight right now. Please just head on over to Greenlight and give us an upvote. It would really help get the game in your hands faster so you can start playing the beta right away. That's basically it. Thank you so much.